Alright, so I'm going to try and talk you through this program, which is not something I'm particularly good at, but I'll do my best. So right now I'm starting a new battle program, and I'm storing life for you and an enemy in the variables H and E. You're both going to start out with 100 life, and right now I'm just displaying that, and then I'm going to loop around and make sure that works at least. So it displays alright. Then I have to add in a turn feature so that things happen on your turn and on the opponent's turn. I'm going to store in whoever's turn it is in T. 1 will be your turn and 2 will be the enemy's turn. And each time it has to change turns. I'm going to do that by using absolute value of T minus 3 stored to T, which pretty much just, if it's 1, it'll change T to 2, and if it's 2, it'll change it to 1. It's a lot like doing just if T equals 1, then 2 stored to T, else 1 stored to T. And right now I have it to display the turn, but I'm going to take that out later. It's more just to show that it comes up with the right turn. Alright, now on your turn, so if T equals 1, you're going to choose an attack, and right now I have 2 attacks programmed in, one called Sword Strike and one called Magic Attack. I have Sword Strike on label A, but I already used that as the main loop, so I have to change that. Let's see. And then I want something different to happen, or I want the outcome of the attack to be random, so I'm storing a random number from 1 to 3 in A. And if that number is 1, then you're going to miss, and you'll hurt 0 damage. And I'm storing that damage in D. And otherwise, if you don't miss, you hit. And that's it. So if you hit, you're going to hurt a random amount from 8 to 12. And then you have to subtract off the amount you hurt from the enemy's life and store it, and then loop back around. And for the other attack, I put the wrong label. It should be C, but I'll fix it later. There's going to be 3 different outcomes. If A is 1, then you're going to miss, and you'll hurt 0. And then for the second outcome, then it'll be a weak hit, and you'll hurt 5. And for the third outcome, it'll be a critical hit with with 3 exclamation points. But with a random amount of damage from 16 to 24, and I'm changing the damage for weak attack from 5 to just a random amount from 3 to 6. I put the end up at the wrong place, but then you subtract off the damage from the enemy's life, and then go back through the main loop. So that's what happens if it's your turn. Now I have to add in stuff for the enemy's turn, which is T equal to 2. And here I'm just programming in 1 attack for the enemy. And it's going to be called It'll be called Sword Strike. You'll see I leave off some closing quotes and some closing parentheses, just because it doesn't matter if it's at the end of a line or before a store symbol. Here I'm jumping around, but I want to display how much your attack hurts. So right after it subtracts it off from the enemy's life, I'm going to display however much you damage them. I know it takes a long time to type stuff out on a calculator, but if you practice it enough, you get better at it. Alright, so for the enemy's attack, if A is 1, so which happens with 33% chance, then they're going to miss and hurt 0. So store that damage, and otherwise they'll hit, and they'll hurt a random amount from 10 to 13. Alright, so I forgot to subtract it off from your life here, but I'll fix that later. Then I'm displaying however much it's going to hurt and repeating the main loop. So that should be good for the very basic program. Alright, so that seems to work right now. Alright, there's that label error because I put B instead of C. So I'm also adding a clear home at the start so that when you start the game, it clears the screen. Alright, there's that error because I put in an extra and. But alright, they just hurt me, but it didn't subtract off from my life, so I have to go add that in. I usually don't make too many errors, but I don't know. It's probably a good thing because then you get to see what kind of errors come up and how to fix them. Alright. And then I knew I didn't add in an end of the game, so I'm going to add in that now. And also, I don't want your life to be negative, so if your life is less than or equal to 0, it'll just store it as 0, so it won't be negative. And it'll do the same for the, I'm adding it in, so that'll do the same for the enemy's life. And then after it displays the life, if either of you have 0 life, then it should be the end of the game. So I'm going to go to a different label. Here I called it E. And I'll add in the label E at the end of the program. And I'll just display a game over message, and then if you have no life, then that means you lost, otherwise you won. And it takes care of ties by saying if it's a tie, then you lost. Of course, ties can't happen in the program as it is now, but maybe later. Just to speed up the testing, I'm changing the starting life to 50. Everything seems to work. So in the next video, I'm gonna program in a story and add in some new features, improve the design a little. So look forward to that. Alright, and it says I won, so